So I recently had a realization of what my biggest role as a dad. So most people think, and I thought this too before I had a kid, is work, keep food on the table, keep a roof over their head, make sure they're clothed, save up for university so that they're set up for life. But what I recently realized is that those are just bare necessities. Those are just bare minimum things that you should be doing as a parent. In fact, if you don't do some of those things, you will go to jail. And the actual hard part is making sure your kids don't grow up to be assholes. And here are a few reasons why it's harder. It forces you to look a little bit deeper to see if you have any toxic relationships with yourself, with your partner, with your kids, with your parents, whoever in your life. Toxic just doesn't mean the obvious stuff that I thought of, as well as something that I experienced in my life, which was, violence at home or verbal abuse or fighting or constant turmoil or financial situations where you're constantly stressed. Sometimes it takes form in a very subtle way, just like the way you might make a very slight disrespectful comment towards your wife or your partner, or you put down somebody's idea because they're trying something new for the first time. Or even more common, you compare your wife or your child to somebody you think is doing better. And here's why I think the subtle stuff actually matters a little bit more. And don't get me wrong, I do agree that what you actively teach them does help shape them. But I believe the subtle cues shape them more. Because these are the things that happen on an everyday basis. How you treat your wife, how you treat your friends, how you treat your family, how you treat your kids. These are the things that your kids are paying attention to throughout the entire day. Because these things happen so frequently, they bleed into what they think is a normal way to treat other people. And that's ultimately where my real frustration is. I think a lot of parents pat themselves on the back for doing the bare minimum, when I know for a fact that every parent out there is thinking about the same thing that I'm thinking about, which is worrying about the things that our kids will face when we're not around. Because guess what? I can control what my kid is exposed to at home. I know my flaws. I'm not a perfect human being. I'm working on them, and I'm very, very aware of the toxic things that I have maybe learned from my dad. But I cannot control what your kid brings to my kid. So please, just try. Just try to not be an asshole at home. Just try to be a good role model, please. Because you being an asshole to your wife or your friends, family, or even the worker that was at the restaurant, that teaches them that that behavior is okay. And I apologize if I'm rambling and I'm all over the place and not making that much sense, but I don't know. It just feels like the part that nobody really wants to work on.